everyone, and welcome back to my channel. The last time that I talked about being a professional cuddler, I did a series of questions that some of my friends and followers asked me, and one of them was actually so interesting that I wanted to come back to it, and that question was, how do you create intimacy with another person in such a short amount of time? So I thought I'd get into that. So if you're looking to just create better relationships, or if you're looking to figure out how to actually get close to someone, like if you're an introvert and it's difficult for you to kind of start those conversations and start that relationship, this video is for you. As with all things, I don't necessarily know best. This is what works for me, and it might not work for you, but I think there are going to be some things in here that will surprise you. And just real quick, if you feel like this video is going to be helpful to someone in your life, someone in your workspace, go ahead and hit share and let them know where it is. I really appreciate you guys spreading my videos around and helping me out in that way. All right, let's get started. I titled this How to Create Instant Intimacy, but obviously from person to person, things are going to vary a little bit. There are some people who are closed up, and no matter what you do, they're not going to open up to you, and that has to be respected because everybody's different. There are some people who will open up to anybody who's within earshot, and you don't necessarily need to employ any of these tricks. You can just ask them questions and they'll answer. Generally speaking, you'll meet people who are kind of in an in-between. Like, they want to talk a little bit, but they don't want to get too deep, or they want to talk, but they don't quite feel safe enough to talk to you because you're not showing the right kind of attention, or they just don't know you that well. And these are some of the tricks that I've found through professional cuddling to help me break through some of those walls. So the first one is the obvious one, and that is be curious. I recently had a client who told me, you know, he's really good at his job, he's really good at what he does, but he has a hard time wanting to connect to people that he feels are really different from them. And my immediate thought was, they're probably not that different from you, A, but also, why don't you just be curious? Be curious about who they are, be curious about what makes them them. You don't have to ask really uncomfortable questions like, you know, what was the worst experience you've ever had in your life? But, you know, definitely inquire about them, show a genuine interest. When people see that you have a genuine interest in getting to know them, they will often find themselves opening up regardless of whether they plan to keep themselves closed off or not. Furthermore, people love talking about themselves. They love talking about the things that interest them even more. If you can figure out what interests that person, what they like to do, what they like to experience, who they like to hang out with, what kind of music they like, what kind of movies do they like, what do they do on your typical Sunday afternoon? Are they homebodies or do they go out? These are all really great questions. People love talking about the things that they enjoy. They love talking about the things that interest them. And I assure you, if you really get these conversations started and you're genuinely curious, you're genuinely wanting to know about this other person in front of you, they have some interesting stories to tell you. Everybody has stories. Everybody has something interesting that they can talk about. It doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter how different from you they are. They have interesting things to say. So my number 2 tip is sit in the silence. This one I am not taking credit for at all. Sam from Cuddle Up to Me hooked me onto this, and I think it's the most genius thing I've ever heard, which is to, after you ask a question, if someone answers and they've just kind of like given you a throwaway answer, wait. People don't like silence. So if you say something like, oh, why did you move here? Just looking for a change of pace. And I really liked the weather because they'll actually give you more information because nobody likes awkward silence. It feels really uncomfortable. So when you sit in the silence, you're actually saying, no, I'm genuinely interested. I'm asking you a real question here. This isn't a throwaway. But generally speaking, they will answer. Again, you're always gonna have that one person who's like, what, I'll be there with you. Silent all day. But in general, people will not be comfortable with the silence. They will actually then start to have a real conversation with you, telling you genuine information that you can then use to go a little bit deeper with them. The other way that this works is sometimes there just needs to be a gap in the conversation. If someone's told you something very heavy or something very personal that it feels like they're a little taken aback by how personal they've gotten, Just sitting in silence and nodding your head, showing them that you're actually paying attention, showing them, hey, I'm listening to you and I'm here for you whenever you want to pick up the conversation again. You know, sometimes that silence is what you need to guide the conversation a little bit further. Number 3 is what I call touching base. This does not work for everybody, and generally speaking, you can read someone's body language. If they don't want to be touched, it'll be pretty obvious. And when I say, you know, touch base, if you're flirting with someone, it's not to say, you know, give them an unwanted and like too long back rub. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're approaching them in a friendly way. What do you do with your friends? You'd pat them on the back, or you'd like tap their shoulder if you were, you know, worried about something that they said and the emotional reaction that they would have. If a person starts crying, you put your hand out to see if they want to hold your hand, and you can just like hold it like a friend. But that sense of touch brings you closer to somebody. Furthermore, if you're really wanting to connect with them, getting at their same level instead of sitting across from them. Sitting across from someone seems very adversarial, and it can be useful to some degree, but if you can stand next to them and kind of look over at them, it's even better, because that's like, hey, we're at the same level, we're friends, we're just chatting, what do you want to say? Number 4 is ask open-ended questions. Anyone who's worked retail has heard this before. Open-ended questions mean you can't answer in a yes or no. You have to give something a little bit deeper than that kind of answer. Hey, what are you up to this afternoon? You can't say no to that. No. Well, you can, but most people will not because they are uncomfortable being rude. So you might say, you know, if you could sum up your relationship with your mom in one word, what would that word be? And then they'd have to say, oh, they really have to think about that question. And obviously you're not gonna wanna go that deep with everybody, but this is just a way to kind of initiate that emotional intimacy, to initiate a real conversation about what this person is, who they are, where they came from, what they enjoy doing. You could even say, you know, if you don't wanna go too deep, you could say, what brought you into your job? Because sometimes people like talking about their jobs. If they kind of give you an answer that indicates like, you know, I don't really like my job, it's just what I'm doing right now, then you could say, what would you prefer to be doing? If you could do anything in the world, what would you want to do? People's eyes light up when you ask them real questions. They're like, oh my God, I get to like actually talk about this thing. I've always wanted to be a freelance dolphin whisperer. I was struggling to make up something. But they'll actually talk about the thing that they're very interested in. And sometimes people are really interested in their job. If they have an interesting job, ask questions about it. Ask them like, oh, you're a paleontologist, which I've had this happen before. You're a paleontologist, that's so amazing. So do you have to work in different places a lot? Is it kind of an adventure situation, or do you find that you're doing mostly paperwork? People love to talk about what they do. And they might say, like, this person said, no, I work in the field a lot, but there is kind of that aspect of it that you have to do paperwork, and that's kind of boring, but it still leads you to other findings that you might not have considered before. And I was like, I am in. And really, if you're listening to someone, you can make pretty fair assessments about what they're saying and kind of add to it as you go. Like, oh, yeah. So are you saying that by writing, you're kind of saying, oh, wait, I didn't see this piece right off the bat. And then they'll keep talking. So by asking those open questions, you're saying, I don't want to know like just the flat 2D version of you. I actually want to know you. People love it when you show actual interest. So the 5th tip is to actively listen. Now, I'm sure everyone has experienced this where you're talking to someone in a crowded place, like maybe a bar or an art gallery, and you see someone and they're kind of like looking off to the side or like looking at their phone. You're like, wow, it really does not matter what I'm saying right now at all because you don't give a shit. Why am I talking to you? When you're talking to someone, really look at them. Look at their eyes, look at their body gestures, look at what they're saying without saying the words. Actively listen. When you're looking at someone, even if you're not saying something, you're connecting to them. You're paying attention to who they are in that moment. You're actually reaching them at a deeper level because they see, oh, you're really interested. You're not just asking me throwaway questions. You're actually listening to the answer. This can get tricky because obviously if you're a dude and you're talking to a lady, you don't want to be like, But I think if you really consider it, if you approach women like you're approaching your friends, and really that's all women want, is for you to approach them like they're any old person, like you just are interested in knowing them. If you approach them in a very friendly and neutral way and you're paying attention to them and you're not leering, I think you'll be fine. Because I know that some of you are probably going to use this as a, hey, I'm in the dating pool, what should I do? Yeah, just don't make it weird. Actually be interested in the person that you're sitting across from or you're hopefully sitting next to. The other thing is nodding your head, or like if someone tells you something that just sounds awful, going, ooh. Like actually empathizing with what they're saying goes a long way. And you'll find that when you're really doing that active listening, people want to talk to you more. So it might be a struggle to get them to open up at first, but after a while, people are really connecting to you and they're like, oh, you're listening to what I'm saying. We're having an actual conversation. Again, I'm not going to work on everybody. Some nuts are just too tough to crack, but in general, most people will find it relieving that someone actually wants to listen to the stuff that they think. And the last thing that I can think of that I do is that I admit the awkward. So it's awkward meeting new people. It really is. It's like your heart gets beating and you're like, oh, I don't want to say something stupid, or I don't want to be offensive accidentally, or like, what if I make a joke that they're just like, oh my God, this person is awful. But if you admit that, if you say something weird and then you're like, oh my God, that was so awkward. I always get a little nervous meeting new people. People will actually open up to you and be like, oh man, I have social anxiety too. That's so crazy. Like, how do you deal with it? Because you just approached me. You seem so confident. Then you can kind of talk about that shared aspect. Like, yeah, it's a fight for me. When I come up to people, I like everything in my body just wants to run, but I have such a genuine interest in what's going on with other people and meeting new people and seeing new ways of experiencing the world that, I make myself do it. That's my reason. I am very socially awkward. I have severe social anxiety, which is surprising considering that I actually coach people through their social anxiety. That is like 90% of the clientele that I have is people who are extremely socially anxious, and it affects everything that they do in their life. But because part of it is that I've learned to just push past it because I am that type A personality. And then the other part of it is I realized that if I actually wanted to like travel the world and see new things and meet new people, that I would have to come out of that shell. So I forced myself to start practicing these things. And it mostly worked. I definitely have my times where I'm just like, nope, don't want to talk to anybody, don't want to be at this party, I'm going to leave in 5 minutes. When I can bring myself out of that and push through it, I find that I have amazing conversations with people, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I met you, you're so cool. So having that ability to kind of push through my social anxiety has been really helpful for me. It's been helpful for me for getting jobs, it's been helpful for me for creating businesses, and it's been helpful for me for just like finding new friends and finding people that I can really connect with, because pretty much anyone who has social anxiety hates small talk. I don't know how to tell you that, but it sucks. You just feel like it's draining the life out of you. But when you start talking to someone about stuff that they enjoy, stuff that you enjoy, experiences that you've had, like what's your favorite country? If you could go to any country in the world, where would it be? Then you'll find that people are endlessly fascinating, just endlessly. And you want to have those conversations more. So again, I kind of got off on a tangent, but admit the awkward. If you're awkward, say you're awkward. Don't let it sit inside you like a little festering wound. Oh no, I was awkward, I need to leave. No, just like say, oh, that was really awkward, sorry about that. And move on with it. Change the subject if you need to. If someone is feeling like really uncomfortable with the last question you said, just said, oh, forget I asked that, I'm sorry. That was clearly too far. And move on. You've admitted that it was awkward and you haven't let it get to you. You've moved past it. It might remind you of its presence later in the night, but in general, you can move past it and people probably will only see that like, oh my God, this person's really cool. They have like a lot of confidence. They won't know your secrets. All right, so that's all I have for you. Again, if you feel like this video could help someone, because I know we're all awkward social rejects. I know a lot of us are socially awkward, and if you feel that this video could help somebody, go ahead and send it their way, because Lord knows we all need a little helping hand sometimes. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, and if you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button, make sure that you hit the little bell next to it, because that tells you when I make new videos, and I release new videos every Tuesday and Thursday most of the time. I do my best. Also in the comments, let me know your biggest social anxiety trigger. Is it like I'm gonna say something dumb, or is it like I just feel like I can't start the conversation? Let me know in the comments below. All right, you guys, that's it from me. Mwah. So I sat in the guest room today because the light is so pretty in here, but now I feel like deeply self-conscious about it. because it's too pretty for me. I never spend time in here, so when I'm in here, I'm like, what do I do? It's all white. I'm gonna spill something immediately, even if I don't have anything to spill.